What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living here in Accra, Ghana. And if you want to know why I hated being back in Ghana right now, then this is the video for you. And this is one of the reasons. All right. We are live on all platforms. We're live on Facebook, a couple pages on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Instagram. We are not currently live on LinkedIn today. Today we've decided not to go live on LinkedIn. This is not a LinkedIn type of content discussion. So let me know if you guys can hear me. I see there's a lot of comments already because of the title of the video. So I'd love to hear if you guys can hear me though. Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. So if you guys can hear me on Instagram, I just put a link there to the YouTube live. So if you want to join the live, you can just click that link and come over to the live and you can join the discussion live on YouTube, or you can stay on Instagram if you want. And if you're on YouTube, let me know that you can hear me, but I want to know if you can hear me. Okay, so Odie99 says yes. I'm guessing that's yes, you can hear me. Cool. Can you guys hear me on Instagram? Okay, I see it's Lolly. Yadira, was it Yadira? He said you can hear me. Cool. Carrington said you can hear me loud and clear. Cool. So for those of you who are joining from Instagram, I did pin a link here, so you can click the link and come over to the YouTube live. But today we're going to talk about what I hate about being in Ghana right now. There's a lot to talk about, and we're going to talk about it. But before I do, for those of you who are new and aren't as familiar with me, especially those of you who are on Instagram Live who are getting a chance to see me for the first time, I am the person who runs the Instagram page. I have a social media manager who manages a lot of the posts. But I live in Accra, Ghana. I moved here in December 2020. I'm building a house in Sierra Leone. I'm back and forth between Sierra Leone and Ghana. I work for a US-based company that puts ads on websites, and basically my role is to expand the company's market to the continent of Africa. I have this platform that's meant to bring the diaspora and the continent together, and I tell people stories who've moved to either Ghana or Sierra Leone, people who are already here and build businesses. My goal is to share what's going on the continent of Africa with the rest of the world. And further down the line, I want to do some investing in companies, and I want to bring together an investment group of like-minded individuals, people who are subscribers to these channels, to have you be a part of the investing journey, so that we can have our own people investing in our own companies as opposed to others. So that's really who I am and what I'm about. Again, if you're on Instagram Live, there's a link there that you can click to join the YouTube Live, because that's really where most of the discussion happens. And I usually put their questions up on the screen so you can see what people are asking. There's a lot of questions and comments before we went even live, but iTuber said you could hear me. iTuber also said, I see you back on Ghana time. It's 4:01. I was a minute late, GMT, Ghana man time. But you know, I was distracted by a phone call that led right before I jumped on the call. So you can blame people who I had to speak to on the phone today for my lateness, my tardiness. So please excuse my lateness. I apologize. Okay, so you guys can hear me. Great. All right, cool. So I'm not going to spend too much time doing the whole background, except I'll just say, for those of you who are new, I do plan to launch the Authentic African website, the e-commerce site, in February. So, you know, obviously February is 2 days away. So it might not be February 1st, but it will be in the month of February in honor of Black History Month. As I mentioned on previous lives, I launched the site initially February of 2019. I also launched the Instagram page, Authentic African, in February of 2019. And then 2 years later, in February of 2021, I launched the YouTube channel to follow my journey moving from the US to West Africa. So what it's like, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. some of the challenges that you deal with. It's definitely testing my patience. So I smile through it, but I'm upset. So certain things that are challenging here that I have to deal with, and it is what it is. But we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of moving to West Africa, right? Any new city or country you move to, there are going to be challenges, and it's not going to always be roses. You're not going to see everything through rose-colored glasses. I think I made the mistake at the very beginning of only talking about the positives, and I've seen now multiple people who've moved here or moved to Sierra Leone and moved back home to where they're originally from because they moved with only what they saw on YouTube, and what they saw was paradise. And although it is a paradise in so many different ways, there are definitely things that will test your patience, and you have to become resourceful, and you also have to be able to be a person who thinks a couple steps ahead, because things go wrong. They inevitably go wrong when you're in an area that's developing. And so there are certain things that you're used to having in the West that you're not going to have here. So that's the preamble to this live. So let's get into it. But before I do, there's a couple of questions and comments of people already. So Adrian from the Sound of Accra podcast said, "You hate it already?" And he's laughing. So Adrian is a Ghanaian, Ghanaian Brit, I guess is what you guys call yourselves, Brit. So spent some time in the UK. He goes back and forth. The Sound of Accra podcast is his podcast, which I was on this past weekend. And Adrian and I, we had our conversation about some of the frustrations that happened. He had some challenges this past weekend while working to shoot his and film his podcast. And I empathize with him because I know what it's like to deal with some of the technological challenges that might occur, and having to have a backup on a backup, and different ways to try to figure out how to make things work. It does definitely test your patience. And so, hate's obviously a strong word. You guys all tend to click on things if I say hate or disaster or whatever. And so I do talk about the challenges that I have, but I also talk about solutions too. So I'm not going to just complain about everything. I'm also going to talk about solutions. I always talk about solutions. So I'm going to start with some of the issues that I'm having, and I'm also going to look at solutions to these challenges that I'm having, and some of the things that you would need to look out for if you're planning to move to Ghana or even Sierra Leone, because some of the challenges Sierra Leone has, Ghana has, and vice versa. And they also have their own different challenges, right? Because the countries are different culturally, people are different. So yeah, Soka in Blood says hello. What's up? Noble Savage, what's up? I see a bunch of people joining on Instagram. Cosmic Capricorn says hi. What's up, Cosmic Capricorn? All of you who are joining the Instagram, feel free to jump over to the YouTube live. I pinned a link there for the YouTube. So if you want to see everybody's comments on YouTube, just jump over to the YouTube. I just want to make sure I capture everybody on Instagram before I jump back over to the YouTube comments, because Instagram goes so fast. Like, everybody comments, and the joining of the live happens so fast I can't get to everyone. So I just want to try to do that before I get on to the Instagram stuff. So Koiva says, get reacclimated in the West where most things ran efficiently. Now you're back. Oh, got reacclimated in the West where most things ran efficiently. Now you're back in Ghana. Yeah. So that is exactly right. I spent a grand total of 4 months in Ghana last year. So I came back from Sierra Leone at the beginning of last year, in a couple weeks into February. I was here February, March, and a part of April. Then I went to Nigeria, Sierra Leone for a month and a half, came back to Ghana for 1 week, and then I left to go out of the country for basically 2 months. Came back again for 3 weeks, then left to go out of the country for the rest of the year. So I didn't spend a lot of time in Ghana. That meant that there weren't a lot of things in place that should have been in place before I left. So what you find a lot of times here, at least in terms of the conversations I've had with people, and what one of my challenges is you may have management of a building who can't make unilateral decisions for the owners, and the owners may be remote somewhere. So there's a lot of well-to-do individuals in England who own properties here. They have someone locally in charge of the property and managing it, but might be their children who may not have ever been in charge of a property before. It may be someone that they know, that they met, who's not used to being on top of things all the time. And so when things break or go wrong, the manager is trying to find funding from the owner to pay to the mechanic or to, sorry, the electrician or the plumber or whatever. So you guys might remember that I bought these water heaters. So the apartment that I moved into was not equipped with hot water. So I bought my own water heaters, and we negotiated back and forth, but I worked it out with the building that they would cover some of the costs for the installation of the water heaters, while I would cover the rest of the cost, because at the end of the day, when I move out, the next tenant has a water heater. Their argument to me at the beginning, which was crazy, was, well, if there's hot water in the house or the apartment, then we have to charge more, and maybe that's less likely that we'll get new tenants. I'm like, don't try that. Just cover half of it so that I'm upgrading your apartment to be able to get tenants that have, if you're going to charge more, that's great. You're actually going to be able to get higher quality tenants. And I'll also say, in this part of the world, if it seems too good to be true, it is, right? Because my rent is pretty low, comparatively speaking, like to other apartments in the area. I have a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom apartment. I would estimate it's about 1,400 square feet, and I have over 10-foot ceilings. So the ceilings are over 10 feet. So it feels very spacious. You can't really see that from what you guys are looking at, because I do have a pretty small bed in here. But trust me, the place is pretty big. And yeah, it's just me in here, and it's for a pretty reasonable price. I would say south of $1,000 a month. I'm not gonna say exactly how much it is. I might have talked about it before. Whatever. It's $600 a month, right? So usually in this area, that's usually like an 800, 900 plus, because we have a generator, which a portion of the generator broke, and power outages have been happening more frequently here. So the generator wasn't working for a while. So when I first got back, the generator wasn't working, which meant my Wi-Fi wasn't working, because you have to register your MiFi with a Ghana ID, because it has a SIM card in it. If you don't register your MiFi with a Ghana ID, then your MiFi doesn't work. And so that means that if my house router goes out because there's no power, that means I have no access to internet, because my device, trying to hotspot my device, doesn't work. So that was some of the stresses that I dealt with when I first got back. Power kept going out. They weren't doing that. They're also siphoning or rationing water in my building. So they've been rationing water in my building. So we have 2 poly tanks outside. They're pretty big poly tanks. They're like really big. But there's some challenges with water issues sometimes in certain areas in Ghana. And so what my building does, I guess, sometimes is if the tank's full, they stop the water from the main line coming in, and they don't always like let it continue to run, as far as I understand. So what ends up happening is the water depletes. They don't just go check on it, like knock on it to hear, okay, is there water in there? Does it seem like there's some water, to maybe refill it? They just let it deplete. And then when somebody comes to them and says, hey, we're out of water, they're like, oh, okay, let's try to turn on the main line. Oh, the main line, the water is not running. So we got to wait 24 hours or even 48 hours until water comes in. So you have to have contingency plans. So I have buckets of water on standby at all time. I have these giant cartons of water that I have on standby that I fill up, and I make sure it's available to me. So in case water runs out, I have it. And so it's just been a thing where the water runs out, and it is what it is, right? The water is an issue, but I have my ways around it. But that meant that while I was gone last year, and I'm kind of all over the place, but I want to get back to this. This meant that while I was gone last year, I could not Airbnb my apartment, because obviously the target market I'd be going for are, this audience here, most people watching, right? Diasporans coming to Ghana, 10 minutes from the beach, 15 minutes from the airport. Literally, like, this isn't made up numbers. It's literally 15 minutes to the airport from here, even with like rush hour traffic, maybe 25 minutes from the airport if it's really, really bad traffic. And it's literally 5 minutes from the beach. like right there. Like Labadi Beach Hotel and then Labomi Beach, which I went to the other day, is maybe 10 minutes away. So like two major beaches are really close here. So I thought it'd be perfect for Airbnb. And when I moved in, that was what part of our discussion. They were fine with me doing an Airbnb. But as Americans know, you're used to flowing water and hot water. So if the hot water heater doesn't work, or if there's no water flowing, I'm going to get a 1-star review, which I prefer to not go live on Airbnb and get a bunch of 1-star reviews than to just not make money off of it overall. So that means this apartment was empty for 12 minus 5 is 7. So for 12 minus 4 is 8. So 8 months last year, this apartment was empty. And it just was costing me money, right? Because I paid a year up front, but I also had my housekeeper coming and cleaning every so often. So I paid her monthly salary no matter what, because it's not her problem that I decided to leave for that many months, right? So I was paying her monthly salary, which, by the way, people told me is not enough. I've been hearing that in my comments lately, which we'll have a conversation about later. So I've been paying her monthly salary. And basically, it was just costing me to have this apartment. Everywhere else I go around the world, I pay for housing where I am. So I'm not generating revenue from this place, and it's costing me money. So beyond the fact that I'm dealing with the inconveniences when I'm here, it also isn't a place that can generate an income for me when I'm gone, right? So these are just some of the frustrations. And I know it's like first world problems, right? No flowing water. What is it? It's a big deal. What's the big deal? But it is an inconvenience, right? Like when you don't know when you're going to have water, like you go to turn on the tap, you're like, oh, no water. Okay. Now I got to go to one of my backup options. You know, I got to heat up water on the stove, or I got to just do the cold, whatever's in the bucket, cold bucket bath real quick. And that's just not an ideal scenario to be in when you're planning to go out to dinner, or you're meeting up with clients, whatever. You want to be able to jump in the shower, what you're used to doing, and get things done. And that also means that I always have to think about reservoirs, like backup water supply, right? So, but that is the solution to that challenge, right? Is having a backup water supply and getting used to the fact that, you know, I'm the type of person, and some people might dispute this if you know me really well, I can get ready pretty quickly when I'm going somewhere if there's flowing water, right? Those of you who know me might dispute that because sometimes it takes me a little while to get ready, depending on the circumstance. If it's cold outside and I got warm water, I might take a longer shower. But in general, I can get ready pretty quickly. But when you have the water challenges that you have to take into account how long it's going to take you to heat up water. You know, do you already have water in buckets ready to go, or do you need to get those tanks or whatever this thing's called? I don't know what it is. I'll show it in another video sometime. But like pour it into the buckets because that's like the backup water. So the water situation is a big issue. I hear it's an issue kind of all around Accra, but specifically and for me, it's a huge issue because, you know, everything you do requires water, right? Washing dishes, you know, like if I eat some of our West African dishes, they can stain Tupperware or your bowl. And so you want to get water in it right away to kind of break up the residue with like a little bit of soap, you know, if I'm going to let it soak or whatever. And when you don't have that, then you have to go find sources of water to come bring to the sink, pour it in the sink. So that's one water issue, and that's how it's affected other areas of my life. The second water issue is the way it's been described to me is because I'm so close to the ocean, the salt in the water or the salt in the air, I don't know if this is even real or not, tends to make and stuff that isn't anti-rust, rust. So the plumber who now doesn't want to do the work to fix the challenges that he created, used cheaper tools and cheaper items that rust. So the screws that screw into the hot water heater, they're all rusty, right? They're like rusty and brown. The ones that go into the wall, I'm sure the pipes, all the things they put in the pipes behind the wall that I can't even see is probably all rusty. You know, I always let the water run for like a good 2 minutes first to kind of make sure that the water is clear before I use it. And that's why I always want to heat up the water too. I don't want to just take cold showers because I want to just ensure that whatever might be in the water is like killed and dead or whatever. But yeah, so under the sink in the kitchen, it just started leaking like crazy. It leaks a lot. And so I have a bucket under there, and it's been 2 weeks since the plumber hasn't come, because the plumber says the management of the building hasn't paid him. The management of the building is like, no, we paid the plumber, but like both of them are not doing something, right? And so either way, I still haven't gotten it fixed, right? So, okay, just leak. If I got to use the sink in the kitchen when I have running water, it just has to leak. And even if I use backup water, it still leaks, right? Because it still has to go through there. So that's fine. So I just have to find a way to get a small bucket to put it in there and then deal with that leak. Last night or this morning, so Sunrise 60 says plumbing issues. Welcome to the party. This morning, I woke up in the middle of the night to nature calls, right? Relieve myself, as they say, right? And when iTuber says no flowing water is not a first world problem, we need to up our standards if we think that. Okay, well, yeah, what I mean is like first world problems. Like I'm so used to having running water where, you know, there are other issues, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. Wealthy Merchant is asking, are these earrings? No, they're AirPods, whatever you call them. My audio on my phone that I do Instagram live on isn't working really well. The microphone's not picking me up when I talk, I've been told. So I'm now wearing headphones so that those who are following on Instagram live can hear me loud and clear. But that's a good question. If I was wearing earrings, I would not wear them this large though. This is crazy big. Like I wouldn't do that. That's crazy. But good question. So Nakia is asking, does anyone know where he is from? So I'm from the US, but I live in Ghana now, and my family heritage is from Sierra Leone. She's also asking, what's the bottom line? So what I'm talking about is, what are the challenges that I'm seeing here, and what are my solutions? So that's the bottom line, basically. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Oh, it seems like the standards in Ghana are declining. Yeah, I mean, Lenore, I would say in some ways, in some places, yes. In other places, no. Like I have seen some other places that are pristine, really, really nice in this neighborhood, which one place I'm looking for is somewhere that will have better standards, right? So it's not, I don't think it's the country in general. Even Accra in general, except for maybe the water challenge. This is more specific to management of the building. And that's something I would make sure that you guys try to figure out as much as you can. How are they communicating with you while you're leading up to the process of moving in? Because there were a bunch of red flags before I moved in that should have told me that this was going to be a challenge. I had a friend who already lived in the building, so I decided to move in. But as part of the problem, I was trying to communicate with them for a month and a half. So I actually sent them the money and they couldn't find the money. And it's because it was the first time I wired money from my bank account to this bank account. And so their bank held the money before putting it into the person's account. And instead of going to the bank like they said they would or talk to the bank, they never did for a whole month. I had to call their bank and tell them money came from this person, Joanna Satagwa, from this bank account number, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, oh, we have the money. We haven't transferred it to this person's account because they've never gotten money from this particular bank account before. Right. And so then I called the building, the manager, and I was like, hey, you've had the money for a month and you just never called your own bank to see if the money was there. So I had to call your bank for you, which is kind of par for the course. Like when you hear some of these things you sometimes have to do, you just kind of have to take an extra step sometimes for other folks. It's just part of how you live here. You just have to know that. And so this is it. I had to call the bank, figure it out. So they gave me an extra month for free because I had already given them the money for a year up front. Well, no, 6 months up front, 6 months up front. But I had to spend a whole nother month somewhere else paying rent. So they gave me a month for free. But it cost me so many other things. So yeah, Miss P says, sounds like a nightmare. Nakia says, where did you live in the US? I lived in New York, Pennsylvania, California, and in Florida. But most of my life was in New York City. Molly says major red flag. Nikia says, so basically you're venting about the water issues and over explaining and reading down things that are common sense. This is my first time tuning in. Well, welcome. Welcome. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome to the live. You know, as I mentioned, again, if I'm going to complain about something, I'm always going to talk about a solution. So I obviously by your name, you're obviously Ghanaian. So I understand that you want to defend your country, and I get it. I defend Sierra Leone a lot too. But I also know Sierra Leone has its issues, and I know the United States has its issues, and I'm free and open to talk about all of them, and I do frequently. So don't think that this is me saying America is better than Ghana, because I live here and I still chose to live here. I know this is your first time here, so you probably don't know that. So I just wanted to give you that insight so you know. Running down the issues, not reading down. Got it. Okay. Yes. No worries. Quadro says, bro, you'll be out of a crop much this year. Definitely let me know. If price is right, I'm down to short term, minimum 1 month when you move. Okay. Cool. Good to know. Send me an email or just comment on this video afterwards, because you know these comments go away when the video goes live, and so I'd have to rewatch it live. So send me an email at and then we can talk about that, because I'll be doing Airbnb. I probably won't be staying here though. Echo said he's stopping by. What's up, Echo? Molly says hit the like button. Thanks, Molly. Okay. So Nikia said I located your YouTube. Thank you for the invitation from Cosmic Capricorn. Thanks, Cosmic Capricorn, for showing other people the page. Miss P says hello. Sadia says, happy to catch you live finally. What's up, Sadia? Thanks for joining. Crew Bay says, oh, yes, you can. That was whether or not you could hear me. So I appreciate you joining. What else? Who else has said something I want to make sure I catch? Okay, and there's some other comments about the ID card in Sierra Leone, so we'll get to that in a second. So Nakia says, be grateful for what you have. You can't control if your cup is half full or empty. Be grateful you have a cup. There are people living in worse conditions with no income, help, or resources in America. Yes. So to be clear, I am grateful. Absolutely am grateful. And since you're new here, you wouldn't know, right? So remember, I'm not comparing the countries, right? So remember, I'm not comparing the countries. I'm basically just explaining the circumstance, because as I was saying earlier, you want to make sure if you're moving here, you know these things, right? So just make sure I just want to make sure you're clear on that. But to speak to what you're saying, so they say the optimist says the glass is half empty. Sorry, the glass is half full. The pessimist says the glass is half empty. The opportunist drinks the cup of water, right? And then there was other ones that they say whatever. The way I look at it is I look at it practically. Like it is half empty and it's half full. And I know that it's both. And I know that if I'm thirsty, I'm going to drink the water, and I'm grateful for the glass of water being there. Right. So to your point, I am grateful that that I've had an experience where I've had something different and I can explain why this isn't working. But remember, this is for people who are thinking about moving or planning to move. So they need to know some of the things that can happen. Right. But yeah, I mean, as you watch some of my videos, you'll see, Nakia, this is not what I'm not a basher of Ghana. I love living here, but I hate this scenario and this circumstance. And I'm telling people what they can do to ensure that it doesn't happen for them. Okay, Echo says, I guess the problem is everyone want to live in Accra. I lived there for 2 years after university and did my national service, so I understand the pressure. Guess people should try other places in Ghana. Yeah, I have a friend that's in Kumasi right now, and apparently it's great. They love it in Kumasi. So yeah. iTuber, I know what you're trying to say, but I don't want to start any kind of anything, so I'm not going to put your comment on the screen. But I think people are just protective of their countries, right? So like, I'm not going to hold that against someone who's very protective of the country. So I'm going to leave that. Quadro says, okay, cool. I'll email. Thanks. Okay, great. Anita's back. What's up, Anita? She said, greetings, Joe. Sorry, I'm late. What I missed? Just talking about my experience so far with water challenges and water issues. And what my solutions are, which You just got to have them. Okay. So, okay, so it looks like Nakia's leaving. She's upset with how this conversation has gone. She said, I'm excusing myself. I don't have time to waste on, etc. So I'm sorry, Capricorn. You invited Nakia. She's upset, or they're upset. And they've decided to leave the live. That's the second time in 2 weeks somebody's left the live upset. But this time it's the first time it's maybe because of what I said. Anyway, iTuber, I'm not putting what you said on the screen. I'm gonna leave it at that. So back to the challenge, right? So I woke up in the middle of the night last night, this morning, and I could hear like what sounded like a waterfall. Like, you guys know what like running water sounds like, right? But like when it's running water that's not running where it should be. You know, like where it sounds like it's coming from somewhere high and splashing on somewhere lower, right? Like you guys can picture what this sounds like, right? And you're like half awake, you know, but you hear it and it sounds too close for comfort, right? It wasn't outside, it was inside. So I go to the other bathroom where I have to shower now, because that was the only place where the hot water heater worked, because the hot water heater that I had installed in this bathroom still doesn't work, because the plumber that did it had his apprentice do it and it fell off the wall and broke. And that's a whole story that I've told in the past. So my one working water heater is gushing water. Like, there was I don't know, I guess, you know, it has parts to it, right? And so throughout the bottom, it was like gushing out water. Just the floor had like this much water and it was flowing everywhere. Like, I was kind of half asleep. So like I noticed the water first, and then I felt my feet being wet. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a problem. And so, you know, I turned off all the valves and everything, whatever I could do to turn it all off. And, you know, I tried to clean up as much of it as I could this morning. And my housekeeper helped me clean up the rest of it. But it was pretty wild to see like the way the water was coming out. So that hot water heater is now done. The electrician and the plumber both came separately to work on it. Both said, oh, the issue is the electrician. This is before, when it wasn't, the water wasn't heating up. And so I had them both come look at it before, and they never came back. And so whatever happened that they didn't fix caused it to just go nuts. So now I can't use that one anymore either. So now I have 2 hot water heaters that just don't work. And so I spent the money on hot water heaters. I split the cost with these guys, had to negotiate back and forth to get them to have a plumber install them, and they were installed improperly, and now they don't even work. So all of that headache the first 3 months that I moved in here, that actually ended up lasting an entire year before they were all like hooked up properly, is now for naught. So that is the water scenario that I'm dealing with right now. And so I just got to do bucket baths, and I got to heat up my water with the hot water, the kettle, or putting water in a pot and putting it on the stove. So that's the water issue. So that's the first issue and then beyond the MiFi and the electricity issue that I was having before. Let me see if there are any other questions or comments that people have before I move on from the water issue. So Odie99 is saying, I would want to live in other parts of Accra. My concern is that I need high-speed internet, at least 50 Mbps. I think you might have to get a commercial plan to get 50 Mbps. Now, I was corrected. I don't know what Mbps actually stands for. I thought it was megabits or megabytes per second. I don't know. But anyway, it basically means how fast stuff gets uploaded and downloaded, right? And in the US, it's usually at least 50 or more. From what I've seen, at least when I do the tests, because there's like certain companies you can do tests to see what your speed is, I'm seeing 12 or 15. So like, whereas I have a 30-minute video on YouTube, when I was uploading it in New York, it would take 10 minutes to upload a 30-minute video. It takes me an hour, sometimes hour and a half, sometimes 45 minutes to upload it here, right? So that's definitely something that is a challenge. Mr. Tucker says, hello, boss. What's up? What's up? Samara, long time no speak. Okay, cool. So yeah, I don't know. I think I use so for you guys who don't know, I use MTN fiber, and then I have Vodafone fiber as a backup. I did have a Vodafone MiFi and a Surfline MiFi as backups, and I was planning to get an MTN MiFi, but I have to figure out how to get a national ID. I'm just have to go through that process so that I can register my devices, because my ID expired. So yeah. Anyway, Sadia says, I'm grateful for your insight. I'm in Salon, but I also thinking about living in Ghana or Sierra Leone, looking at ways to make my money, transfer my skills over. She said, bye to Nakia. Okay. There are remote jobs, as Echo mentioned. So there's definitely something you can do there. I'll probably share that as another live separately of like what remote jobs are out there that you can do, because there's definitely ones that show up in my feed all the time that people look to do. So there's definitely things to do there. Waswell LTD said, where they're green cleaners. Nice. I heard Takoradi has newer developments, more suited to expats. Is this correct in your experience? I've never actually been to Takoradi. Yeah, I've been here a whole 2 years, but as I mentioned, only 4 months last year. So I haven't been to Takoradi yet. It's on my list of places to go, but I hear good things. I mean, Jumia was expanding Takoradi. Kumasi also has people seem to like it there as well too. So I would think that, you know, more likely than not, there are areas in any general major city that can be suited for those people. You probably are just going to pay a premium for that, right? Like there's certain areas like in cantonments that don't have as many issues as from what I hear, right? Especially because you're paying a lot more of a premium for the apartment. They make sure the generators always work and there's always fuel for the generator. That there's always water. Like there's plenty of water backup, and the staff is a little bit more on top of stuff. But you're also paying probably like $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, whatever more per month to ensure 100% that you have it all the time. I'm paying $600 a month, so you get what you pay for, right? You know, it's obviously you're going to have a little bit of a challenge with certain aspects of service when you're paying what I'm paying. So that's why I'm more laughing it off than like complaining the way most people complain about these kinds of things, because I also know that, you know, I'm actually paying a low price to deal with these inconveniences, right? So, you know, that's just kind of, it is what it is. Okay, cool. So iTuber, iTuber, my goodness, man, you are aggressive in your speech sometimes. I don't know if it's necessary to say all of what you're saying. I'm not going to put what you're saying on the screen, but I hear you, iTuber. I hear you. So OD90, Echo saying the OD99, 22 Mbps is not stable, but okay enough to work with. I work in property management. So yeah, okay, Society is asking about remote management. iTuber said they got annoyed turning into Shannon Sharp, like at the basketball game the other day, which I'm not even going to get into right now. Okay, so you guys talking about remote jobs. Okay, so just Echo's talking about, yes, it's growing. This is Takoradi. I work remotely, so I get to move around and chill at work. Okay, you're going to have to tell me how to say your name. I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong. Is it Iwurama? Jefferson says, hi, Joe. I have not caught you live in a while. Always enjoy your conversations and the information you share or your experience. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, OD99 says it's Mbps is megabit per second. All right, thank you. Mr. KK is throwing up the Nigeria flag. I don't know why, but shout out to Nigeria. That has some light issues too. Nigeria has some real light issues. So does Sierra Leone, but Nigeria has some light issues. Echo says, I am a data analyst and work remotely. 15 Mbps works for me unless I have to do some wild presentation. Yeah, I mean, it works just fine for the most part, except if you have a YouTube and you're uploading downloaded video. That's where you kind of run into some challenges. Okay, so a quick question that you had for Echo. OD99 was asking how Takoradi is. Echo says more beaches, calm, nice people, comparably low rent compared to Accra. There you go. Quadro says, yeah, that would be great to do a live about remote work. So I will do that. That's on my list. I'm going to make a note of that. Do a live about remote work. You guys are asking about it. So, I work remotely, as you guys know, but my circumstance is unique. So I'll do that for other people. I'll probably get an expert on to talk about remote work, because that's something that people do ask about. Digital nomads, all that kind of stuff. Waswell says, will you ever host group trips? I will go on a group trip. I don't know if I'll host them. There are plenty of people who already do them. So, and I've done lives with some of those folks already who've talked about where they go and what they do. I did, a couple of them. I don't want to start naming them and miss anyone, but there's definitely options there for sure. Echo said to Sadia that he got his offer on LinkedIn. Nice, for remote work. All right, cool. So I got through all the comments, or many of the comments. So let's get to some of the other challenges. And by the way, if you guys are just joining from Instagram, I'm talking about some of the challenges I'm dealing with, my suggestions are and solutions. If you want to see what people are putting on the screen and all the questions as they come up, click the link that's pinned there and come over to the YouTube conversation so you can join the YouTube discussion. But yeah, so let's do that. Okay, cool. So one of the other challenges I had is this national ID thing and having to register your national ID, register your devices with a national ID. Now, prior to my ID expiring, I did register my phone with a national ID. So this phone and this phone number is registered using my national ID. So luckily I can still use it. However, this device that requires a SIM card and a secondary phone number that I have, and the other device that requires a SIM card, I have not registered. And so the process, I have to pay some money, go to the office, sit around for a while, eventually sign some paperwork, go through the process. And I'm told renewing it is almost as long as doing it. So I just will have to do that this week, because right now, by not doing it, I'm further inconveniencing myself when power goes out and they don't put fuel in the generator to put more water. Oh, look at this. This is why I love this group. So Nee is saying you register the SIM card and not the device. So that's what I mean. Yeah, the SIM card. So yeah, this device has a SIM card that requires the registration. Yes. And same thing with this. It's the SIM card in here that requires the registration, not the device itself, which the instructions are peeling off. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So I actually know another person who lives in Tema as well too. Nee is saying I have a place in Tema, C25, no lights off, no water off. The apartments are between 65K and 75K to purchase. Renting is between 500 and 600 USD per month. So Tema is like a neighboring town to Accra. And I was talking to someone, Ivy Prosper, the other day about like the different areas of Tema, and there's like a large expat community growing in Tema right now. And then I also used to go to Tema a lot for client meetings. So like a lot of the major companies that have factories. How am I forgetting the word factories? That have factories are in Tema. So like Bell Aqua is in Tema, this company that I've been giving free advertising to. Bell Aqua's in Tema. Many other companies are in Tema. So yeah. Fee is asking what part do I stay in? I'll say I don't live far from Labadi Beach. I usually don't tell people exactly where I stay because, this is out in public to many people and you don't know everyone's intent. So I don't say exactly where I stay, but I stay near Labadi Beach, not far from there. So that's what I'll say. Okay, cool. He said, what about eSIM? Do you have to, Lenora said, what about eSIM? Do you have to register them as well? Any SIM card in this country you have to register, even if it's an eSIM. Some companies allow eSIMs. I don't know if they allow eSIMs with these, Vodafone or MTN. You don't have to register your own SIM card from the States or from another country. but you have to register a local SIM card for sure in your name. And a part of that is because, and I understand it, don't get me wrong, I understand it. There's been a lot of 419 fraud and things going on in this country. And I won't say who's perpetuating that fraud. I'll just leave that to your imaginations. But some of those people who enter the country and are defrauding people, they're doing it because, and you cannot trace it back to a specific phone number because that person used somebody else's name to register the phone number. So now if you have to have a national ID and you have to register with the government with your national ID, if you defraud somebody from that phone number, it traces back to you, right? And so you guys might remember a friend of mine had a clothing business and tried to make a purchase of products and they stole her money, and it was registered to a SIM card of a person who was like a kid, or it was a name of not the actual person. And so they were able to rid themselves of the SIM and we were never to hear from them again, right? So this helps to at least reduce and mitigate some of that. So yeah, East Lagoon Hills is the next hotspot. Molly is correct about that, but it is pretty far and it's kind of like bordering Tema, like another area of Tema. But like East Lagoon is kind of far from like Labadi Beach, let's say. East Lagoon Hills can be 15 to 20 minutes beyond East Lagoon, right? MP is saying, to renew the national ID process depends on location. Accra is always very busy. Takoradi was 40 minutes. There you go. So there you go. Anybody who's looking to renew or get a pass or your national ID, maybe it's better to go to Tema. It might take you longer to get there, but once you're there, it might be a faster process. So, but you do definitely want to get a national ID if you're going to spend a significant amount of time here. Just do it. It's going to save yourself so many issues. So I just definitely recommend it. So I talked about the Wi-Fi issues. I talked about the national ID. Also, being back, I have this issue of like FOMO, where my friends, the party starters, my crew back in Sierra Leone are having the time of their lives. And I'm in a group chat and I just see the group chat going off every other day on weekends, and I'm missing out on everything. And I really had a really good time this last December, met some amazing people and had some really good times with my friends. And so I'm missing them being here, but I do have friends locally. And that's another thing that I would mention, guys. If you're a person who's like an introvert, or you're a person who's really busy with work all the time and you don't go out a lot, I'm a big proponent of, it's not where you are, it's who you're with. So force yourself to go out and build relationships with people here locally. It can become a very lonely place if you don't have a group of friends. And obviously you want to diversify your friend groups, so like if this group is having something or this group is having something, you can go out. If you're a person who doesn't like to go out a lot, but you want to entertain, maybe you entertain and bring people over to your place. But I would definitely recommend doing that, because if you don't do that, this place can be a really lonely place. I have friends here, as you guys know. Kenya and Masa are my Sierra Leonean friends who own Freetown Chop House, who I've hung out with a couple times since I've been back, which gives me a little bit of my feel of Sierra Leone, because I speak a little bit of Creole sometimes with them, a little bit as much as I can. And we have Sierra Leonean food. I had cassava leaves the other day, and I had Sierra Leone jollof the other day, and I still have some left over. And I will tell you, our jollof is far superior to other jollof. I'm just going to tell you. And so I would definitely recommend, if you, as a person who decides you want to move here, work on getting out and meeting with people. Lenora concurs, right? For me, I'm a person, anybody who knows me, I'm a person who I'm very big on delayed gratification. I've studied people who have achieved the results I want to achieve, and all of them will say the same thing. You need to do the work now and then you can enjoy it later, right? But you also need to build a network along the way, because as you know, your network is your net worth, right? And it's not just who you know, and it's not just who knows what you do, but it's who knows what you do well and who's going to speak about you when you're not around, right? That's how the quote should go. And so if that's the case, the only way to make that happen is to get out and to talk to people. So I've been doing that a lot. But it's still really early stage relationships with people, right? So you're still getting to know people. They're still getting to know you and how you guys can work together and how you can build a network. Whereas like when I'm in Sierra Leone and I'm like, I need to film this thing, somebody's like, oh, I know the owner of that company. Let me send you the phone number. Or like, I wanted to interview the mayor. So a friend of mine was like, oh, come to this event. I'm going to introduce you to the mayor of Freetown. So I met the mayor of Freetown. Or like I went to another event and I met the minister of tourism. And so like in Sierra Leone, I have that where I have a network where people are like, here, just meet this person. Let me introduce you to this person. And, you know, we can do that for each other. In Ghana, I'm really still working on building that network. And so the best way to do it is to get out. Like this weekend, I went a bunch of places. You know, I was at Labadi Beach Hotel, meeting up with one group of people. Then I went to Labomi Beach and met up with other people, and was just getting a chance to kind of build and develop those relationships. So it's definitely important that you do that. 100%. I would tell you, it doesn't matter if you're an introvert, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Like if you want to succeed in a country that is not your home country, you need to get out and network and meet people. That is the only way that you'll be able to progress in your career and in any business endeavors that you have, right? So I'm just gonna put that out there because I'm a person that can be a hermit sometimes. I could be at home 3 days in a row without even going outside. You know, during the early days of the global sickness, I try not to use the words that they use to describe it because of YouTube and their algorithms. In the early days of the global sickness in 2020, for me, actually being at home was great. I got so much done. I had a lot of introspection. I made a lot of life changes, going vegan, discontinuing hard liquor, and then eventually not drinking alcohol at all, losing 30 pounds, like all these different things that I did during that time. It was really helpful for me to focus on myself. But when I'm thinking about Ghana in that perspective, I was only here for 4 months last year and I didn't fully take advantage of the networking. So that meant that a whole 12 months went by where I didn't further any relationships in this country. And that is not an ideal scenario to be in when you're in a new country, especially if it's not yours and you don't already have a network in the country, right? So I don't want to belabor that point, but I will just make it very, very clear that you need to network as much as you can while you're here. All right, there's a ton of comments. So let me get to some of them. Let's see. Echo says, want to visit Sierra Leone. Learned there are some wild opportunities to take advantage of. Yes, there are, for sure. It's a more of an emerging market than Ghana is, right? And so, and if you do something right and do it well, it can be a monopoly. You can be the only one doing it. And even if other people are doing the same thing you're doing, if you do it well, you can still be a monopoly because everybody will still come to you. There are certain staples and businesses that just continuously get people and get business all the time. There's a club, Scarlet, for whatever reason. And people tell me, well, I don't like the people to go to Scarlet now. Well, it doesn't matter because they have really expensive tables for the nightlife and and everybody goes to Scarlet. People go to Scarlet no matter who you are, your age, your gender, your whatever. It doesn't matter. Everyone goes to Scarlet at some point in time. I went to Scarlet like 4 times in December. So you have Scarlet, and then you have Lagunda, which is where people go to eat dinner, and it's a nice place to go eat. And they've done that really well. They maintain a specific level as best they can within the market. And it's a staple. It's been around forever and people still go there and people still show up. So I would definitely say for sure, yes. Nee says it's good to network. 100% is absolutely good to network. Crew Bay said best place to have fun is Sierra Leone. Yeah, Sierra Leone, we love our enjoyment. We love to enjoy ourselves. Like, yeah, we love to enjoy ourselves. Sierra Leone is all about enjoyment. Oh yeah, I've already mentioned what Lenore says. Echo says, Crobe, oh, I see. Oh, trust me, Salon, our enjoyment is on another level. We might be a smaller country, but our enjoyment, we punch above our weight in terms of enjoyment, in terms of liquor consumption, in terms of just overall enjoyment, parties, nightlife. People can find a party any and everywhere. I mean, we have a good time in Sierra Leone. And someone who doesn't drink anymore, I still have a lot of fun when I go out in Sierra Leone. It's on my list maybe next year. Definitely go. Watch my videos on what to know before going to Sierra Leone before you go, Sierra Leone is so underrated as Molly says, 100%. It's such an underrated country. Lenora, Lenora, I think you had a mixed experience in Sierra Leone, but I was going to ask you, as someone who's American who went to Sierra Leone, I'm interested to hear what your overall thoughts were. Oh, there it is. Nee, I just left, but coming back soon and planning to move in 2 years. There you go. Is that Ghana or Sierra Leone, by the way, Lenora? I don't know if we've talked about that yet. Nee says jollof is different from each country, therefore it cannot be compared. Well, if it has the same name, you can compare it, you know? So here are my thoughts. And this is a general theory, and it's based on people who are from East Africa who have no ties to West Africa. And what they've always told me is Senegal has the best, Sierra Leone is the second best, Ghana, and then Nigeria. That's what they told me. See, I didn't even put Sierra Leone number one. I haven't had Senegal jollof yet. Oh, Senegambia, I guess. But that's what they say. I have to try Senegal jollof, and then I will be able, and I'll try to be as indifferent, not as indifferent, as objective as possible. But we'll see. I don't know. Okay. So what else we got? What am I missing? Sierra Leone is underrated for real. Oh, okay. Okay, well, real quick, because there's some networking happening, which I love. Lenora, let's network. I'm in Toronto, so Nee's trying to is networking. I like this. See, and okay, Lenora's saying I'm coming back playing the move. Okay, that was from what that was. Molly said I'm starting the Jollof Wars. Well, it can't really be a war if there's a clear-cut winner. Or well, we'll take second place if it's second place. I have to see. I'm trying to be as objective as possible from what I understand the case to be. So iTuber says Sierra Leone underrated for real. It's the best time to get settled before it gets popular, but you need money to live comfortably. You do need money to live comfortably for sure. Like some of the complaints I mentioned here, you can find there, and it is a little bit more expensive in certain places. If you want to be like right on the beach, then you got to be expecting to pay some serious money. If you want to live a little bit further away in different places, then yeah. But what can I say? Definitely buy here. I have a mentor who spends half his time between Sierra Leone and Ghana. He goes back and forth, and he bought a bunch of land 20 years ago when he was my age in Ghana, in Aburi. I don't know how some people say Aburi, but it's spelled Aburi. And he has many acres of land. And so as of right now, as we speak, I'm in the process with some other members of my family of purchasing 3 acres of land somewhere in the country. Until it's done, I don't want to say anything yet. But it's in between a major solar farm, and someone else bought land next to it that has a hotel, and they're going to build a hotel somewhere else. They're going to build a hotel next door. So I'll be in between a solar farm and a hotel, which means I will have prime land, 3 acres we're working on, and pretty reasonable price. And it means that when I'm 50, let's say I need cash for another investment, I can sell an acre, or I can sell, and basically 1 acre is 10 town lots, right? Is 1 acre 10 town lots? Is 1 acre 20 town lots? I think 1 acre is 10 town lots. So that's 30 town lots in total that I'll have access to. And I can just sell off 2 town lots. Like the property that I'm building on is on a town lot and a half. And you guys have seen images of what that looks like, right? 3-story, 3 self-contained units, right? So if I can do that on a town lot in 3/4, imagine what I can do with 30 town lots, right? And so that's definitely what I'm looking to do. Okay. Echo says, iTuber, more expensive than Ghana. Some parts of Sierra Leone is more expensive than Ghana. Some parts of Ghana is more expensive than Sierra Leone. It's relative. I mean, you can go to Cantonments, and Cantonments is definitely more expensive than most places that I know in Sierra Leone. I know somebody who's paying over $3,000 a month. I think $3,500 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom in a building with a pool in Cantonments. So it can definitely be more expensive for sure. Crow Bay says, I was there in December for an Afro-Caribbean festival. So I was actually there at the same time, and I was actually at the festival. I went to 2 events. I went to the I can't remember what you called the fete that was at the pool party at Radisson that night. And then I also did the you might have seen me with my camera filming the carnival when we marched down Lumley Beach Road. But yeah, dope that you were there. Molly says, I like my own company too much. Lockdown was bliss for me. Yeah, but it's important to network, you know, to grow that network. Adrian is saying yes to something that I must have, or something that was said earlier. Molly saying everybody should hit that like button. Introvert is bliss. Nee says food can never be compared. Going back to the fact that I said Salon Jollof is better. It just is. Sorry. And to all my Nigerian friends out there, you know, Nigeria wins in a lot of different things. If I'm being honest, doesn't win with the jollof. And I don't care if it's at home, if it's at a restaurant. They have a lot of other food that's really good though, that beats other people. But the jollof, I'm sorry, it's just not what you're best at. And it's okay. And even with Ghana, I like Ghana jollof too, but I like the jollof though. It's just there are like there's levels to it. You know, that's it. I agree with jollof rating. Okay, Sadia is saying east to west. Sorry, west to east. Okay. OD99 just subscribe to Echo's channel. How did you do that? Did you jump off, go watch some videos, and come back? No wonder why the numbers keep going up and down. You guys keep jumping off and coming back. Stay on the live. If you're gonna go subscribe to someone's channel, do that after the live is over. New rules. Okay, so I'm just kidding. Do whatever you want. It's your life. Nee says, who says chicken tastes better than beef? It's all based on one's taste. True, but I think it's like, okay, the question though is baked chicken here versus baked chicken there. We're not comparing apples and oranges, even though I would say it's apples and oranges because that's how different it is in taste. It's supposed to be the same meal, right? So it would be saying baked chicken here versus baked chicken there. Who does a better baked chicken or who does a better fried chicken? It's different than saying chicken versus beef because those are two completely different animals, which, by the way, I don't eat either. I don't eat either anymore, but I get what you're saying. Intra-Africa should be made easier to travel. United Africa, yeah, Supreme, 100%. I would say ECOWAS travel is pretty easy if you have an ECOWAS passport, right? So Economic Community of West African States, which we talked about. You get your Sierra Leone citizenship. You have a Sierra Leone passport. You could travel around West Africa, or if you're from any one of the other countries, traveling by West Africa is really easy. But that same passport is not always as useful traveling to other areas. I mentioned this before, and this might be a good insight for those of you who are joining. I went to Egypt in 2021, November 2021. And my initial plan was to use my Sierra Leone passport. But when I looked through the requirements, the amount of the things you had to do to get your, your visa was too much. So, and I could get my visa on arrival when I landed in Egypt. So I landed in Egypt, paid $20, got my visa on arrival with my US passport. The same thing with Tanzania, Zanzibar. Shout out to Ya, who's helping me try to work out a trip there. I can get my visa on arrival with my US passport. With my Sierra Leone passport, I would have to have gotten a visa ahead of time. And it's a bunch of work to do it. So you're right. Traveling around Africa should be much easier. And we do need a United Africa and like an Africa ID for sure. Adrian said, what do you know about retirement for us who want to move to Ghana? I talked to someone. So Lenora is someone you should definitely talk to because Lenora is in retirement now, and she's soon to be retired, I think, as you remember. So she's planning to move shortly, and so I think that's definitely somebody you should talk to because she's planning out her trip and planning a move herself. So I would definitely recommend talking to her. But in terms of the move, I would say this. There are people who are more mature moving as well. I've met a few folks who are retiring. Some people retire early. Some people are retiring at, that 65 plus age. And while I was in Sierra Leone, I actually met a couple of people who live in Ghana or who were planning to move to Ghana that were of retirement age. So it is happening. What I would do is maybe look at other channels that might have people on. But that's another thing I should do is interview someone who's retired, because everyone who's I've I've interviewed has been younger. So I'm just making a note to interview someone who's retired for you guys, because I think that'd be important. So I'm sorry I don't have more to ask, but Lenora, I think you should reach out to Lenora. So Lenora is saying 6 plots is 1 acre. Is that what you're saying? Let me know. Millionaire Maine, Liberia beachfront is still very reasonable at the moment. Yes, Liberia is somewhere I still haven't been yet. I know some people who have gone, so it's on my list of places to go. Smart move, best retirement plan is property, 100%. Yeah, any and everybody who has been able to develop any kind of real wealth and amass it quickly here that I've talked to has bought up a ton of real estate while it was still cheap. And in Sierra Leone right now, you can do that in certain areas. Now, you also have to be strategic about it, because you have to have land that is going to be desirable to others later. So you definitely don't want to buy swamp land. And you want to buy land next to places that people are already planting stuff. So what I was taught a long time ago in the United States is you buy the worst looking house on the street, because once you upgrade that house, it grows exponentially in value because everything else around it already is higher in value. And in fact, that property is probably lowering the property value of all the other houses. So you automatically pay less, but then have the higher upside. And so the same thing you should think about when it comes to buying land. Now you got to find kind of the sweet spot. So like I said, there's a solar farm next door, and there's a company that is buying land on the other side of the land that I'm buying, that is building a hotel there. And so I know that this is prime real estate for me to buy, because they may want to buy more land later, or people are going to want to buy land next to a major hotel, because, it already has all of the things that you need. And also next to a solar farm, which means it's going to be additional electricity, right? So yes, for sure, I would definitely recommend that when buying land. Needs talking to Adrian said there are more retired Americans in Ghana than young Americans. There you go. That's a community I don't know much about, but there may be flavors of the continent. Obviously, someone who knows a bit about food says, why did you hate? Listen, here's the thing. I eat for sustenance. I'm not a foodie, right? So I eat when I'm hungry. But my taste buds do tell me what flavors are better. And unfortunately for the folks, if you go more east, when it comes to the jollof, it just doesn't hit the same way it does when you're over in Sierra Leone. It just is what it is. But Flavors is saying all about the cook. Lenora saying 6 plots is 1 acre. Okay, so I'm told that I'm getting 10 town lots per acre, but I also need to have a surveyor corroborate that, right? So they have their surveyor, I have my surveyor. And maybe we should talk about how we're buying the land too, because we want to ensure that we're not that everything's on the up and up. So the way we're buying the land is this. We made sure that they're aware that the full amount of money is available by letting them see it. Okay. Now that's not for everybody. That's up to you how you decide you want to do that, but it's very clear that they know that the money is available. And the person who's handling the transactions is someone who knows them. Okay. So that's where we started. So we're doing this in 3 tranches, the payments. Okay. The first tranche is as soon as they produce the documentation. My Instagram live just went dead. Sorry guys, if you're joining Instagram live, my bad. I don't know, went dead. So so they have to produce the documentation. So they have to produce the conveyance, which shows you the land, its outline, the size of the land, all of that. They need to produce the documents that show that the people we're talking to, are the people who own the land, and they have to show us the documents with the city and with the country. And all the documents required, right? We need to see that before we make the first payment. We see that, we make our first payment so that they know we're serious, right? Now, you still run the risk of them reselling the land to someone else, but because I know someone who knows them really well, we're taking that gamble with this process. Now, we're also saying to them To get the second payment, you need to we need to go with a surveyor, and we need to look at the land and our surveyor and your surveyor and agree that the land is everything we say it is. And then we start the process of put the beacons all around and all of that, right? The third payment does not come until everything is transferred over to us, right? So that's how we're doing it. We're doing it in those three parts. That also ensures that it happens faster, and it makes it less likely that the land can be sold to someone else. Now, you can't guarantee that that's going to be the case, but that is how we've decided to go about it. John is shouting out Nigeria right now. Shout out to Nigeria. Flavors of the Continent is disputing the 6 plots is 1 acre, is saying 4 plots is 1 acre. I guess it depends on where you are and what country. Shout out to John, sticking up for Nigeria. Nigeria, #1 country in Africa, period. People are sleeping in Nigeria. Listen, Nigeria is the African giant. Highest GDP on the continent of Africa. $1.08 billion in investments in its startups last year. The most billionaires in the continent, the richest Black person in the world, and the highest population on the continent of Africa. However, with that population and with no nuclear power plants, power is an issue, and it's a big issue all over the country, right? Not just in the capital city. And so it is a big challenge, but I like Nigeria a lot. Some people might dispute, as John is, and Nigeria is the best country in Africa. I don't know if I'll say that, but I'll say there's a lot of facts that are indisputable that I just mentioned. So some people might say it's the best country. Nee is saying, to Adrian, lots of retired American communities all over Ghana, Prom, Cape Coast, Tema, Accra, etc. have strong presence of retired Americans. There you go. See, I love the subscriber base because you guys always present information that I don't have. So Liz Z is saying an acre equals 6 plots measuring 6 by 120 feet, according to Google. Shout out to the Googles. Do your Googles. There you go. Sadia says, interview my dad in Sierra Leone, just moved over, starting a construction business. All right, I will, Sadia. Can you, and do you say Sadia or do you say Sadia? Because growing up in the States, I had a friend who was Sierra Leonean, a family friend, and we used to call her Sadia. And then this December, I met a couple people who their name is spelled the same way, and I called them Sadia because I was told that their name is Sadia. So you have to let me know, how do you pronounce it, Sadia or Sadia? Okay, so here's an area. Is it Berikusu? Is the next high-class area in Ghana, Hillside. Bought my plot for 10K USD 2 years ago. Now it's worth 40K. There you go, in Ghana. There's an exact example in Ghana where you can buy land and you can see the increase. Yeah. Okay, Supreme is asking, are you seeing more diaspora in Ghana compared to when you first came? What are the demographics and country of origin of the expats? Yes, I am. So I first came in December 2020. When I first came, it was obviously the end of the year of the global sickness, right? When it first hit the world. And so when that happened, you did see a little bit of an exodus out of the United States, especially because those people had come the year before for the year of return. But then there was a bunch of people leaving Ghana to go back because a lot of them were getting them stimulus checks and unemployment checks, and those things ran out and they didn't have work here. So a lot of them moved back. But then I'm seeing a new influx of people again. And I would imagine after this last December, where you had Chance the Rapper and all those guys coming and everybody talking about buying houses, that for sure there's going to be more. But yes, dude, since I've been living here, I have seen that number of people grow. Now, in terms of the demographics, I've seen people from all over the place. I mean, people of European descent from Europe, people of European descent from America. And I've also seen people of Ghanaian descent from like the UK. A lot of Ghanaian diaspora I've met have gone to the UK. Some of them have also gone to the States, but then they're moving back. But most of the people I met of Ghanaian descent are from the UK. But I have met some Americans too. But yeah, I'm definitely seeing some Americans. I'm also seeing people from other countries move here. You know, my friend group here, is at least the Africans in my friend group consist of people from Zimbabwe, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and a few other countries, right? So you definitely find people from a lot of other places that move here for sure. And there are a lot of Nigerians here in this country as well, for sure. So I hope that answers the question. Sadia said her father retired from the UK and moved over to Sierra Leone last July. So it'll be good to be able to interview him. So I'd like to do that. That'll be good. Okay, cool. If you're joining on Instagram Live and you cannot see me, I would say just click on the pin link and go to the YouTube Live so that you can join the discussion there. Flavors of the Continent said, can a Ghanaian American buy land in Sierra Leone? You can buy land, but the way you have to do it is a little bit complicated from my understanding. From what I understand, Nigerians, you got to love Nigerians when they go in. We'll get to that comment in a second, John. You're going in right now. I missed this conversation 8 minutes ago, but now he's going in. But anyway, to answer your question, Flavors of the Continent, can a Ghanaian American buy land in Sierra Leone? Yes, technically yes, but it's not like very simple. So I think if I'm not mistaken, to buy land, you need to be Sierra Leonean, or it needs to be a business that's buying the land. So you have to get a business, and to start a business, you have to have someone who has, I can't remember what percentage of it has to be Sierra Leonean. So yes, you can, but there are some hoops that you have to jump through to make it happen. So yeah, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I understand, last I checked, that is the case. John is saying the one thing that Nigerians love to say about Ghana, let's not do the Ghana-Nigeria hate thing. I got in trouble for doing this before. Making a slight comparison between the two countries. Let's be very clear. Every country has its goods and its bads. One Nigerian village as is the whole of Ghana. So let's be more specific. Lagos has a population of between 25 million and 30 million people. Ghana, so Lagos is the former capital of Nigeria, probably the major epicenter of Nigeria, unless you consider Abuja is, and you can, as a Nigerian, you can correct me. So between 25 and 30 million people in Lagos. Ghana as a country has just about 30 million people. So when you're talking about the size and the scope of the two countries, that gives you an idea of the population and the scope and the size of Nigeria in terms of its size. And then, last week we talked about investments in tech startups, and to give an idea in terms of the amount of money, right? Nigeria, 1.08 billion last year, Ghana, 152 million last year, right? So there are some differences there. However, in terms of safety, Ghana is known to be a more safe country to live in than Nigeria, right? In terms of international businesses that are here on the continent, they tend to say it's easier to do business for them in Ghana than Nigeria, although they started in Nigeria first because of the population size. So many of them are there. Facebook, Google, YouTube, all the main tech companies have offices. Microsoft all have offices in Nigeria, and many of them don't have offices in Ghana. So there is that trade-off. Aesthetics, Nigeria has some really, really nice, amazing buildings and infrastructure and architecture in certain areas. Ghana does too. But what I would say is I have found that buildings that cost a pretty penny or more than you would expect can also have, in Nigeria, can also have work to be done. So you guys remember I stayed at 1,004 Estates when I was in Victoria Island, when I was in Nigeria. And the outside of it didn't match what it looked like on the inside. The inside was nicer, but it was still, pretty significant in its price versus something that would cost that same amount in Ghana would have likely been a little bit nicer. And so you have your trade-offs, right? It's, each country has its own benefits and differences, right? So I don't want to start a war between Ghana and Nigeria. I'm not even start a war because it's already been ongoing. Ghana must go. I've heard the history. I get it. There's a lot of bad blood there. Soccer or football matches, as you call them. There's also that too throughout the years. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. Liz Liz Z says, I like Nigeria, but gotta be on your AAA+ game. Nigeria is a hustle. Yeah. Flavors is saying, John is saying in terms of the, okay, yeah. Kwabena, of course, a Ghanaian is gonna say this because I know the name is a Ghanaian name. Who wants to be kidnapped in Nigeria? Oh no. Okay. Real Giant of Africa, yes. Okay, Supreme is asking a question about me. Good, because I like to talk about me, right? We're on the live about me. So how long have I been a vegan? Is it worth it? I've been a vegan since, so technically it was July 2020, but right at the end, I forget to mention this when I tell people, right at the end of my 30-day cleanse, my sister convinced me. She had a barbecue at her house and she had turkey burgers and chicken sandwiches. And so I did eat meat one time after that cleanse, that 40-day cleanse, for like one day, and then I ate leftovers the next day. So it's actually been since August of 2020 that I haven't eaten meat on purpose. I think one time I ate pepper and it had like shrimp in it or something, and I didn't know, and I was like, all right, well, whatever. But like in terms of like actively being vegan, so yes. And is it worth it? I would say yes. I was not on my healthy game last year at all. As I mentioned, I only spent 4 months in Ghana, and I eat the most healthy when I'm here. I drink a lot of water, which I need to hydrate. I drink a juice every day for breakfast. I eat a salad every day for lunch, and I eat vegan-friendly West African meals with very little salt. I can control what I consume here in Ghana. And so while I was in New York for the first time in forever and dealing with everything we dealt with in New York, I was eating a lot of like peanut butter and jelly, and there was like a vegan restaurant nearby, but just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. So I was not eating well. I say all that to say this. I gained about 8 pounds, and I was eating really bad, like a lot of bread, a lot of rice, just a lot of fried foods. I gained 8 pounds from May to December of last year, even eating really, really poorly. I lost 5 of them without even still being on my workout as much as I should be. I lost 5 of them in like the last 3 weeks because of just flushing out my system and eating a lot better. And although my 6-pack isn't like as defined as it needs to be, those who have seen it said it's good enough, right? And so, and this is without me really being on it like I should, like, you know, maybe working out once or twice a week when I should be doing it like 5 times a week, you know? So yeah, it's worth it to me. It's definitely worth it to me, but it's different for everybody else, right? Like it's not for everybody. I mean, it really isn't for everybody. Cheese is a fan favorite of many people. People like pizza. I eat vegan versions, vegan friendly versions of those foods, but yeah, I haven't had like dairy since that. I also don't eat sugar as much anymore. Like I'm not eating, because most of the sugar that I ate was like cupcakes, brownies, cookies. And because I'm not eating those things, I'm not eating refined sugar anymore. I'm also not eating as much salt as I used to eat. And so what it means is that when I eat something, I feel it. So like if I eat too much salt, like the other day, I consumed way too many plantain chips. And like I went to sleep and I woke up in the middle of the night with a headache because I had so much salt in my system and I'm not used to having that much salt. So I feel things now differently. Yeah. So that's what I would say. It's definitely worth it for me. It's not for everybody, and I'm not going to try to tell everybody that they should do it, but I would, you know. Lenore's, I think this is about plots of land, 70 by 100, 70 feet by 100 feet, I think, right? Nigeria is only 3 times bigger than Ghana in terms of size, but the population is 10 times larger. That is correct. Well, not 10 times larger, but like 9 times larger for sure. 200 million in Nigeria. They're supposed to do a census soon. Yeah, I think it's 218 if you look online, but I'm sure now it'll be 240, 230, whatever it might be. I don't know, depending on how they round up. That Nigeria is cool and beautiful. We need to make all West Africa free, safe, and sound for us to travel freely. Correct. Here's a tip from Sadia. A great tip I used from Ghana Property Network was take pictures of the money exchange and all parties to sign a written agreement of amount exchanged. When I had to go to the police, this was very useful. Good point. So yeah, the money exchange, there'll have to be a picture taken. There'll have to be a receipt. Oh, that was the other thing I mentioned. Sorry, I forgot to mention. Yeah, once the money is given, there's a receipt given that everyone signs. So we're not only taking pictures, but we're signing a receipt as well. Yes, 100%. So yes, thank you for that reminder because I forgot to mention that as part of what we're doing. Liz is talking about blackouts in different countries. I'm guessing Nigeria. The most billionaires and millionaires are found in South Africa. You need to Google. Really? Most billionaires. Okay, I think you're saying you're mixing billionaires and millionaires. I said only billionaires. But there are 13 billionaires in Nigeria. Are there more billionaires in South Africa? I'm now Googling it because you said I need to. In Africa, let's see. Nigeria has the most richest, but 13 billion, richest person, 12th year in a row. South African luxury goods, John Rupert is number 2, second year despite falling 300 million. Africa's billionaires 2023. Let's see. Where are they located? It doesn't say where they're located, but I do see a name. Oppenheimer family, I think, is South Africa. You might be right. Let's see. Well, there's a lot of billionaires though. Wow, there's over 20 billionaires in Africa. Anyway, whatever. We'll get to that another time. We'll go through that list. But wealthy merchant, your name is wealthy merchant. So I guess you spend a lot of time looking at income, and so you might be right. But I'm talking about specifically billionaires, not billionaires and millionaires. So you could tell me if I'm right or wrong. But the last list I checked, there were 10 billionaires in Nigeria and one person that was at 900 million. And I think there was less than that. I don't know, was it 8 or 7 or whatever it was in South Africa? But you might be right. I don't know. I'm not going to dispute it. If you're right, you're right. I wasn't able to find it quickly with a Google search, and I didn't want to spend too much time searching. But correct me. Tell me how many billionaires are in Nigeria, how many billionaires in South Africa, and then we'll know who has the most. Sadia, I said it right the first time. Good. I'm really late with these comments, like almost 15 minutes late. Let me get through some of the rest of these comments. Prices in Ghana are like NYC prices, especially Accra, which is to be expected, I guess. Yes, gentrification. Instagram stopped. I did see that. I don't know what's going on Instagram. It's hating on me right now. Man, I've been shadow banned on Instagram. My lives get stopped. Guys, if you guys can, like the content on the Instagram page, because Instagram has really been hating on me. Like, I've done a lot to grow the channel. You know, I grew it from like 30,000. Sorry, it was 39,000 followers like 4 months ago, and then in December it shot up, and now we're at 54,000. So we want to keep it growing, but I'm getting shadow banned. People can't find me when they search. When I send myself stuff, you know, it always tells you who you frequently communicate with. I don't show up there when I'm like my personal account, so I have to type it in and then find my name and send it. So I don't know what's going on with my IG. So if you guys can show me some love on IG, please do. Okay. Liz Z says, is land in SL freehold or lease? It's freehold in Sierra Leone, almost everywhere, as far as I understand, is freehold. Some of it's owned by chiefs. Some of it's owned by people who bought land from chiefs. The family land that I used to have, which was chief land, is all sold. Can you guys imagine? Let me tell you guys an interesting story. Should I save this for another time or tell you guys now? Well, anyway, I'll mention it now. So I mentioned that my grandfather was a chief, and I come from a chief family, right? So technically, like, if everything worked as me staying in Sierra Leone and my parentals stayed in Sierra Leone, I could be chief next in line, technically, had we stayed in Sierra Leone. But that didn't happen. And we had a lot of chief land, and all of that land was sold in the last 40 years. So, like, I'm talking about buying land now, building a house now. Can you imagine if I had, like, I'm talking about buying 3 acres. Imagine like 20 acres or 30 acres or 50 acres. I don't even know how much of the land was sold, but like all of that. I could have had. I don't know how much it was. I'm just estimating because nobody knows how much it was, but I know that I had acres of land that would have just been inherited. And it's all gone. It's all owned by other people. So it was chief land. Chiefs owned a lot of the land. Previously, some people buy land from chiefs and then resell it. And sometimes you have to buy land from a chief, but almost always a chief needs to be involved, especially if it's in the outer provinces, because they're like, just you have to go through the chief. Everybody has to go through the chief. And you were asking non-Black in terms of the diaspora. I don't know, maybe 10% of non-Black. Yeah. I've heard there are many non-whites in Accra. We can't catch a break. Oh, you mean non-Blacks? I guess you mean. Yeah. Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, non-Black. Yeah. Lagos is economic capital. Abuja is the political. Then okay, that was back to my comments about Nigeria earlier. Wealthy merchants asking why Nigerians are obsessed with Ghana. Man, there's a lot there, and I have my opinions on that. Maybe I should do a live about that. Here's what I'm going to do. At some point, I'm going to do a live, and I want to have some people talk about people from both sides, and maybe have a debate and have this conversation. Let's have a real conversation, because there are some discussions that go on that I've been privy to, having worked here in Ghana, in an office full of Ghanaians with a few Nigerians, and man, the stuff that they say about Nigerians. Whew. But then also the Nigerians, the things I've heard them say about Ghana. If you guys are interested to hear some of the things that people like to say about each other, Nigeria and Ghana, feel free to visit the video I did on my Airbnb experience in Nigeria, and you can hear it stopped being about the content of the video, and it started being about the two countries going at each other. And that was interesting. Liz says, I think it started back in the 80s when Nigeria expelled undocumented Ghanaians, but research. So this is the Ghana must go that I referenced earlier, right? I heard about, and I see these bags, they call them Ghana must go bags. And I don't know if that is where it came from, where it's like, you got to dump all your stuff in your bag and go. Maybe that's why they're called Ghana must go bags. But if you guys have ever been here, they're like these square bags. They have a zipper on top, and the material feels almost, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe the material, but it's a big bag, right? It's like a big bag. They make them pretty big, and you can stuff a ton of stuff in there. Yeah. So anyway, I think that maybe that's where the name Ghana must go bag came from, because at that time, maybe when they expelled a lot of them, they left. Man, John is going in on his Nigerian love. Thousands of Nigerian students in Ghana. Why? They're college. Yeah. So this is correct. So Liz is answering this correctly. College professors were on strike in Nigeria. That could be why. That's a big why. Yeah. So that's happened a few times. I know someone who was in school for 4 years, but finished 2 years of school. She came to Ghana to go to college, and then she finished in the UK. Actually, I don't maybe know all the exact number of years, but she's a YouTuber, and I've mentioned her previously. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thing, people going on strike. And so a lot of people leave the country to go to school. Okay. People are going back and forth on the Ghana, Nigeria thing. I'm going to leave it alone. David McCrae. What's up, David McCrae? Long time. It has been a long time. Thanks for coming. Molly says, Joe showed six-pack. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to show the six-pack. That's definitely not going to happen on this live. If you are so inclined to see if I have a six-pack or what my six-pack looks like, just do a search in my YouTube videos. There's a video I did on joining the gym across the street from where I live. And the thumbnail has a picture of me like lifting my shirt and pointing to my six-pack. So if you want to see it, you can see it there. Wealthy Merchant is saying Nigerians all over South Africa. Yes, South Africans are in their country. South Africa is a real giant. Free healthcare benefits, good infrastructure. Okay. Shout out to South Africa then. I know somebody who lives in South Africa right now who just raised $27 million round for his startup, Carry First. So shout out to South Africa. I think that weather contributes to the eating. At least that's what I'm experiencing. Okay. Tim Black says, why is it that builders in Africa and in West Africa hate green spaces? They tile everything. Why? That's a great question. And I don't know the answer to that question. I do see a lot of tiling and a lot of cementing in a lot of places. I don't know why. I don't know why it happens that way. I don't know if it's just they think it looks better. I don't know. But you're right. I guess it's because they cut on all the trees to build the house in the first place. I don't know. Replanting seems like too daunting of a task. I have no idea. It's a great question, though. We'll have to find that out. And if I can find that answer, I'll definitely let you know. Lenore, I've heard that too. What did Lenore hear? I think the weather contributes to eating. Okay, you don't snack as much once you're on the continent. Maybe because you're hot. Yeah, maybe you don't snack as much. Maybe I don't snack as much because I've been hotter here. Maybe that's true. That might be true. Okay. Helen Brown says, my parents bought a land from a chief in the airport area. So Lunge, is this in Sierra Leone or in Ghana? So is this in near Kotoka or is it near in Lunge? Shout out to Kels Acosta. This is Kels, my guy. He's the reason why I started the YouTube channel. What's up, Kels? We definitely got to catch up soon. I don't know if tonight's the night to catch up, maybe tomorrow, but yeah, definitely hit me up. All right. Flavors of Content is laughing at something. It's just banter. I don't know what. Oh, people still going back. Liz is saying we got enough trauma to deal with. Okay, Flavors is saying many Ghanaians died during the Ghana Must Go. Okay, got it. Okay, so Shelton Mackey says, is it hard to be vegan in African countries? Is it hard to travel or live as a vegan in Africa? So it depends on the country, right? So North Africa has some cuisine that can be found in like the Mediterranean and in the Middle East. And in some cases, they can be a little bit more plant-based. There's definitely a lot less pork eaten in that area. So like people can be a little bit more plant-based. But they still do sometimes use dairy, right? Like yogurt and stuff like that. From my experience, only going to one country, so I can't really speak about everything. I just only went to Egypt. But yes, I mean, I ate fine there. I mean, I also can eat chicken. Chicken. What am I talking about? I can eat arrabbiata. I used to eat chicken arrabbiata, but I can eat arrabbiata. And it's just noodles and tomato sauce. So I can do that. And so, yeah. So I can find ways. But in general, just anywhere in the world is difficult for me. So I spend most of my time eating appetizers and or sides. So that means if there's a side of jollof or potatoes, potato wedges, or if it's like a Lebanese establishment or somewhere in North Africa, like when I was in Egypt, I would eat pita bread and hummus, right? So it's not easy, I'll say that. But again, to answer the earlier question, it is worth it. The Ghana Must Go bag is made of plastic. Thank you, because I was asking what is it made of. I heard that Ghanaians won't rent to Nigerians. In some cases, they won't. I've heard some Nigerians say that they're from Liberia. And I'm like, you lying? Because I know what a Liberian sounds like. You are not Liberian. I can now tell the different accents between at least Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and Ghana. These are the 4 countries I can hear an accent from. Yeah, everyone else I'm still figuring out, but yeah, for sure. And the question, okay, and Helen saying, her father bought land from a chief in Lunge, which is great because there's a new terminal. They're talking about a bridge, so that can generate more income for you later. Menelik says, good evening. What's up, Menelik? Welcome back to the live. Ya is answering Tim Black's question. Shout out to Ya. What's up, Ya? Tiling is supposed to be easier to maintain, but it doesn't factor in the environmental impacts, especially considering Accra floods annually. And the same issue in Sierra Leone, right? Like without having the trees and the soil to soak up the water, it does lead to floods elsewhere. And so I'm trying to do some replanting of trees and stuff on my property too, to try to maintain some of the soaking up of that water. Because I have seen when that water flows, it goes everywhere. What's up? Nee is answering. Molly said there are hundreds of thousands of Nigerians living in Ghana. They don't live on the streets. I don't know what that's in reference to. I might have missed the original comment. Okay, guys, we are an hour and 39 minutes in, or almost an hour and 40 minutes in. Do you guys have any questions for me about the challenges that I've been dealing and my solutions that I mentioned? I want to give you guys a chance to ask those questions. I appreciate this live has been a well-attended live, and definitely one that was interesting. You had somebody leave because they were upset with what I said. Wait, okay, real quick, guys, really quickly. Did you guys feel I said anything offensive to that person? I want to get your thoughts because maybe I'm just talking. It's live. I want to hear from you guys. If you felt like I said anything offensive. So while you answer that question in the comments, which I'll get back to, I will review what some of the new comments that are coming up. So Helen Brown says, "How's your new business venture going?" How's it going? It's going. So, like with anything here, I ran into more challenges than I initially thought. So you guys might remember a few weeks back, I talked about a new business venture, be bringing in products made in the States or from the States to Sierra Leone. You can order on demand, right? Because my initial meetings with the folks who were planning to deliver quoted me one thing, but that was kind of like the marketing price. When practically, when you're making orders, there are additional fees and cost. And so that would make the margins really, really small, which means that I would have to do really, really big amounts of orders. So I'm still working through the logistics. I have a couple friends who sell clothes in Sierra Leone, and I'm working through how they logistically do things. But yeah, it's the prices. Yesterday's price is not today's price, apparently. So that was a really rude awakening. So so that also taught me another lesson to maybe announce the business after it's live and working, so I can talk through the logistics with all those details, because I did it based on initial numbers. And then when I went through to do my first run through, as I mentioned to you guys I was going to do last week, as I went through and did my first run through, that's when I saw the wahala. This is how it works. That is the price of doing business in this part of the world. You're gonna run into some challenges. It is what it is. Kel says, "Yo, let's catch up tomorrow, bro. Make sure to like the video, y'all." Yes, as Kel said, make sure you like the video, like the replay, for sure. Oh, okay, Lenora saying it's not what I said, is maybe what someone else said that person left. Got it. It was from the responses and comments. Well, guys, let's be a little bit more kind to each other in the comments. Let's not go so hard on people who are just defending their country and feel like they want to take up for the country. Let them do what they do. She wasn't saying anything malicious to me or hateful to me. She was just trying to get it, and it was her first time on a live. So, her first time hearing me talk about these things. Many of you who are on the live know me and know where I'm coming from, right? When we're having this discussion, you know that I'm speaking from a place of just being honest about the good, the bad, and the ugly, especially those of you who visited from elsewhere. And you know that I'm not one of these Americans that says America's better than everywhere else and I'm complaining about somebody else's country. But that person being Ghanaian, of Ghanaian descent, and apparently in the U.S. military, not sure what exactly made that perspective the perspective that they had. I think they were just trying to say, don't trash my country, which I wasn't, but coming in with a little context about who I am, that might be what they were seeing. So, I always try to see things from all perspectives. So I'm not mad at them. That's why I was addressing their comments on the live instead of just ignoring them, because I thought it was important to give them an opportunity to hear from me in my own words what I feel, right? So Tim Black says, "What is the form of address of a chief? I know, like in Europe, you call him priest or your highness. You call him chief. You call him chief. So, for instance, my great-grandfather was Chief Bemba. My grandfather was sometimes called Chief Bemba. There was also Chief Joannis. I like to be addressed as Chief Bemba. Some people call me Chief Bemba. A few people, you know who you are, call me Chief Bemba. I like to be addressed that way sometimes, but I'm not a chief at all. So, but I do like to be addressed that way. Um, all right. Sadia says, I sent my details in IG message. As for the absentee, she was blowing hot for no reason. Okay, got it. Okay. Michael Horn. Wait, is this the Mike Horn that I went to Milton Hershey with? Like that, one of the first kids that I met going to that boarding school when I was 5 years old, who we talked about the craziest story. I should be deathly afraid of pools, by the way. He witnessed the wildest shit. Oh, sorry. I forget. I don't want to curse on my lives. He witnessed the wildest situation. I threw up in a pool. It was crazy. I was 5 years old. This is in the 80s, the late 80s. And our gym teacher was one of those that was like sink or swim, literally. It's like throw you in the pool. And I didn't know how to swim. I was used to like those 2 foot like rubber pools in the Bronx. You know what I'm talking about? Those 2 feet high rubber pools with this much water in them. So now I'm in the water underneath, didn't know what to do, hold my breath, nothing. Swallowed a whole bunch of chlorine filled water, threw up everywhere. It was crazy. It got everybody running out of the pool though. And it was something that he remembered. So if this is that Mike Horn, then he's trolling me saying it was shame on me for why she left, laughing. If not that Mike Horn, it's another Mike Horn. Shout out to you. But just reminded me of a crazy story. So that happened. First time ever getting in a pool. I drank chlorine water and threw up everywhere. Wild. The craziest thing ever. I would never forget that day, ever. And the Mike Horn, if it's that one, remembered it too. He and I talked about it at my homecoming, 20-year high school reunion, actually. Okay. Helen Brown says, so the launch date is still be February. It still be February, yes. It just may not be February 1st because that's in 2 days. And I need to work out the logistics and figure out some other things. I'm also working on trying to bring in cars as well. So not just iPhone chargers, iPhones, MacBook Pros, and iPads, which I now have access to. The costs are a little bit expensive, at least in terms of what I'll be able to do with it. But not only that, but also I'm looking to bring in cars as well to Sierra Leone and then eventually. And then there's a good point. Yeah, says Tim Black, I don't know, but Ghanaians like Honorable or Your Excellency. Some also have their own horrific titles like Osayefo. You have to tell us what Osayefo means. Because I don't know what that means. I think is that tree? But I don't know what that means. But yeah, so in terms of naming, so Tim Black was asking how you address a chief. In Sierra Leone, I've only ever addressed chiefs as chief. So yeah, but in Ghana at least, they have a couple of names. I'm sure Your Excellency and Honorable would work in Sierra Leone. People love titles, so. So Tim Black is just thanking, yeah. Tim Black, okay, so I already said this. Sorry. Lenora says, I'm a retired veteran and I'm not offended by what I was saying. Yeah. And thank you for your service, by the way. And I should have thanked her for her service. Lenora, did I thank you for your service when I met you? If I didn't, I should. I always forget to do that. And a friend of mine who did 2 tours in Iraq and 2 tours in Afghanistan and 1 tour in Iraq reminded me at like 20 years old that I need to thank everyone for their service, because what he went through, man, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I appreciate him for what he went through. I may have disagreed with us being in Iraq and Afghanistan, but still, people fought for the country that I do have citizenship in, and I definitely always have to thank people for their service. So if I haven't, I want to thank you again, Lenora, for your service. And the other person who was on, if you ever watch this back, for your service too. Cash says, I gotta watch the playback to see what was said. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Might be interesting. 2024 says, yo, bro, what's up? What's up, 24? Just joined. What's all this about? Ghana, it was about my challenges, what I hated about being back so far, but what my recommendations were for anybody else dealing with some of those same challenges. It is the Mike Horn, the Michael Horn, who I met in 1989, because that is how old I am. Yeah. What's up, Mike? Long time no speak. Thanks for joining. Shout out to you. Anne Marie Harding says, hello, Joe. What's up, Anne Marie? Long time no speak. Cash is saying, right, 24. I need to know what was said about my father's land. Oh, so Cash, you're Ghanaian. Well, I just spoke my truth, and you would understand too. If you watch any of my lives, you know I'm not, I still live here, right? This is where I call home. Yah saying, Tim Black, the current Ashanti chief's address is Otumuf. Man, these tree words. You know what it says on the screen, which translates to His or Her Majesty, a Kan language. His full name or title is everything you see there. Got it. Tim Black says, I wish your videos were a little bit longer. I hate the many parts. Maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes would be better. Ah, that's a great point, Tim. I'm glad you mentioned that. So I, as someone who is focused on the algorithms of these platforms, am doing what the platforms require. So the reason why I have those YouTube shorts is because YouTube has decided that they want to push shorts. They always push lives, which is why I go live, which is why I started going live. But they also push shorts a lot more, and they're starting to monetize shorts now too. And so I decided to follow the rules of the platform and do shorts. Now, those shorts are meant to be short clips of a longer video that's already live on the channel. So if you go in the description of the YouTube short, you can watch the full video that you're seeing. So any video that you see as a short on my channel, at least right now, and at least any of the shorts you've seen up till now, which I think there's like 100 shorts that I've done so far because it's been consistent since last June. And they're finally starting to get views now. Those shorts are all parts of videos that have already been live on the platform. So if you're annoyed by seeing a 1-minute clip and you want to see the full 20-minute or 30-minute video, click on the link in the description of the short and it'll take you to the full video. I'm glad you asked that and you mentioned that. And Mike is saying he's never going to forget that day at the pool. It was probably traumatic for you. I don't know what it was like for you to see somebody throwing up in the pool, but it was definitely traumatic for me. It's crazy. I'll never forget that. But I'm glad I learned how to swim. I'm all good. I can get in the water now. I can swim. I'm good now. But that was crazy. Cash, that's my guy. He's hella respectful. 24 is saying about my discussion about Ghana. Liz Z says, thank you, Lenore. Thanks to Lenore for serving our country, or the country of the United States. Adrian says, I love seeing young folks working towards healing the diaspora. We need to learn and listen to one another. I'm about to retire and just looking for peace. The U.S. is about to go down a dark path. Well, here's one thing I'll say about the U.S. I don't really bash the U.S. at all, by the way, but I will say this. The U.S. is... So I've talked to historians, and one thing that they say is the downfall of every major empire. And I also read a book called Clash of Civilizations, which is a really good book, by the way, if you guys are interested in reading. And it talks about the major civilizations the world has seen over time, and it talks a little bit about their declines. But this conversation I had with this historian was talking to me about how every major civilization that becomes like the predominant world power, their decline happens slowly over time, but then all at once, meaning they don't know that they're not the dominant world power until something shows them that they're not the dominant world power, like maybe a war or something else of the sort, right? And so that is something that happens a lot. And in the United States, that is a challenge that the United States is dealing with, right? Is that, the major world power really right now is China. It's just the predominant way that people do governments is a lot like what the US does, right? With democratically elected officials. And so, the US has led in a lot of different things, like the prohibition of cannabis worldwide has been the United States. And as the United States has talked about allowing cannabis consumption on a recreational level, other countries have been talking about at least industrialized hemp and all those other things. So the US does lead in a lot of those different kinds of conversations. And even in terms of geopolitical discussions, right? They're involved in everything, whether people agree with whether they should or not. I'm not here to talk about that. I don't necessarily agree that they should in everything, but they do. So yeah, I mean, that is definitely something that is going to be a challenge for the United States. And so that is why I encourage people to invest in markets and in real estate outside of the United States. Not that I think that in our lifetime or even the next generation's lifetime that the US will be some kind of third world country or something, but I do know that you know, the amount of pride that people had to visit the US or to meet an American is happening fast. And I think I mentioned this before. I've traveled to 30 countries around the world, and I can tell you most people are like, oh, another American, loud American who doesn't know anything about culture. That's how most people look at Americans, right? And so, but there was a time where people looked at America as like it is the destination, right? The land of the free, the home of the brave. And that sentiment is changing a bit. So, when that sentiment changes, when you have less and less people deciding they want to fight for the country, when you have people leaving the country to go to other places, these are all indicators that over extended periods of time, over a long period of time, the US may not be as the predominant world power as it is today. So that's what I'll say on that front. Okay, what else do we got? Dang, we are 1 hour and 56 minutes. We're still going, guys. We are still going, and there's still a good amount of people on. So I appreciate you guys. So Helen Brown says, I see Ghana as my second home, though. With the correction. Yeah, I mean, right now it's my first home, technically, but nah, I don't know. I technically own property in the States, have an apartment in the States that I'm on the lease for. Then I am here, but I haven't been here last year. And then I have a place in Sierra Leone that I'm building. It's one of my places, I guess I would say. Adrian is saying, my first time on the YouTube channel. Well, thank you for joining and thank you for engaging. Yaz says, man, like Michael Horn. Mike Horn. Yeah, my guy. Adrian saying, great conversation. Liz saying, my pleasure. To Lenora saying to Liz, my pleasure. Yao living for him is saying the U.S. is facing judgment. This is speaking, I think, more to like biblical judgment, which I'll leave that for you all to decide. Miss Shonda E says, you didn't say anything offensive, Joe. I enjoyed the live as always. Well, thank you, Miss Shonda. Is it? I say Shonda. Yeah, Miss Shonda E. Thank you. Adrian said, yes, not bashing U.S., but all great civilizations do fall at some point in time. That is true. 24 says, I'm thinking of investing in data centers. That's actually a good idea. And so, okay, so because not everybody might understand or would know what a data center is. So if you guys have ever stored something on the cloud, right? What that is just a hard drive somewhere not locally where you are, right? So like I'm old enough to remember, and I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember like working at a company that had a closet where we had our own storage, right? Where we had like what looked like VCRs. If you guys remember VCRs, right? Like a bunch of those kind of, where we were storing our intranet, right? The intercompany internet, right? Where we could communicate using wires, but it was only available to the inside group. And that is basically what a cloud is. It's just another hard drive somewhere where everybody's storing the information that you're storing, right? So like if you store something to Google Cloud, Google has data centers all around the world. So does Amazon. And both of them actually had so many data centers that they started renting it. And that's a whole nother business. So if you've ever heard of Google Storage and people utilizing that as a company, or Amazon Web Services, AWS, that's them renting out their data centers where they have a bunch of hard drives basically storing data. And so that would be a great investment because you're only going to need more of these over time as people more and more store things in the cloud. And in order for the internet to work fast in certain regions, you have to have data centers for that organization nearby. So I'm not gonna get too geeky on the data center stuff. I know a little bit about a lot, and I know about data centers, but that's all I got. All right, Liz said we need to stay out of people's businesses. We, the United States, we have to stop being in the world's police, in her opinion, or in their opinion. Yes, Sharon agrees. Miss P, I left for an hour to drive home, but I'm back. Well, we're still going, Miss P. We're at 2 hours now. Sharon joined and said, "Good evening, everyone. What's up?" And Nee got a interesting point. Eric, America is not a true democracy. It means America does not practice one person, one vote count. You mean the Electoral College? I have my thoughts on the Electoral College. It's called Authentic African, not Authentic American. So I'll leave it there. But I have many thoughts on the Electoral College and many thoughts on the system in the United States. But I still vote. And I will be voting for the presidential candidate. I won't say who I'm voting for. I'm not going to talk about parties. I don't want to divide people, get everybody upset. But I am voting, and I will be voting in the United States. And I voted in midterms as well. So I do exercise that freedom, and I vote. All right, guys, it's been 2 hours and 1 minute. This live was a really engaging live, an interesting one. I think I'm going to lose my voice. I'm never tired of talking, but I'm feeling like I'm getting tired of talking. Sorry, I needed to drink some water. This is why it's always good to have someone else on, because then when I drink my water, they can talk. So 24 says, I'm in the construction industry and data centers are being built all over the globe. I live in the UK and the first ever data center was in Dublin. And there are some being built in the UK up to $500 million in value. Yeah, so Dublin, and that's Dublin, Ireland, right? That's a tax haven for Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of them. They have data centers in Dublin, and that usually services the European region and Africa as well, those data centers there. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to get into that business. Liz is saying, thank you. Miss Elaine says, I'm mad I missed it. Well, you can always watch the replay. Robert says, curious about the YouTube algorithms. Is the bug-eyed, gaping, open mouth look of astonishment a YouTube requirement? I think it looks dumb. Does it look dumb? It does look dumb. I agree, but it works. So I 100% think it looks dumb. And me and a friend of mine had this conversation because I think it looks dumb, right? I mean, but you just have to think about how people's brains work, right? People tend to click on negative things, one, and two, an image that shows shock and awe is also something that people are going to click on. So like Andrew Schultz, right? I don't know if you guys know who this is. He's a comedian, whatever. He's a comedian. He does content with a guy named Charlamagne the God. If you guys know who they are, you know who they are, right? And all of their thumbnails is like gaping open mouth, bug eyes, all of the thumbnails. And it's just a way that people work to try to beat the algorithm. I know it looks stupid. I hate doing it myself, but it's what you have to do to play the game on the platform. Just like I could have named my video today, I could have named it, here are the solutions to the challenges in Ghana, right? If I named it that, would I have had the second largest number of people join the live than normally join? Probably not. So, but by saying 1 month back in Ghana, I really hate it, I think I said. This is the second largest number of people I've had sustained on a live for this long by myself. I've had other lives with other people who brought in people, but in terms of just my own subscribers, this is the most. So, if any of you guys are content creators, this is something you have to think about. And so you just don't want to get too far outside of who you are and what you believe in, and try to stay true to who you are, and stay true to yourself, because that's the hardest part about this content thing is keeping your mental compass and staying true to who you are. But sometimes you got to play the game. You have to play the game with the YouTube platform. And so when I explain something, I always explain with examples. So I'm glad you found it helpful. But yeah, that's just the truth about it. Yeah, I do think it's stupid, but I do it too. And my friend, she did it, And she did because Kelsey and I did, Kels Acosta and I did 10 things I wish I knew before coming to Ghana, right? And his video has over 100 views. And we're doing like this in the video because we were saying we don't really know how to speak Tree. We just knew a few words. And he took that clip and used that as the thumbnail, right? 100,000 views on that video, right? My 10 things I need to know before coming to Sierra Leone. Mariama, I took a clip from the video, and in the thumbnail, she has like her eyes are balls wide. And I'm doing something with my hands. 22,000 views, right? And that's a Sierra Leone piece of content, which I don't really get it's that many views. That's the most views I have with my Sierra Leone content. Then my friend for Barbados, 10 things I wish I knew before coming to Barbados. And she did this thing with the eyes and all this stuff. And then in her description, it said, don't make these mistakes, something like that. 130,000 views, right? And we all have channels under 10,000 subscribers, right? So it really does help. So if all of you who are out there who plan to make content and put it on YouTube, sometimes you just got to play the game. So see what other people are doing, and you're going to have to copy what they do. You know, success leaves clues, as they say. And so you want to copy what people are doing that's working. And that's one of the things that seems to be working. All right. Phoenix Indigo says, I love to hear you speak on these things. I learned so much from you. Well, thank you. I'm glad. I try to learn as much as I can and share what I learned. Mike looks like he's out. Peace, stay up. All right, Mike, see you. We got to catch up. Maybe not the next reunion at Hershey, but sometime in the meantime. Missy Lane says, I have to rewatch the live. You do. You definitely do have to rewatch it. Sadia saying the 24. I'd like to learn more about that construction. Okay, cool. 24 says the thumbnail works, bro. YouTube love all that ish. Yes, they do. Sadia says, I work in construction and build environments, but looking at investment or bids for land, and I have in Sierra Leone. So yeah, you guys should definitely talk. Large opportunity for data centers. Liz Z says, shamefully drama sells. I mean, think about it, right? Even when it pertains to television, right? Or pertains, I don't know. Sometimes I use the words incorrectly. Forgive me, whatever. So as it pertains to television, I think that's the right word. Yeah, that's the word. So think about CNN, Fox, MSNBC, right? What they call the lower third, which kind of looks like what you see on the screen right here. The headline, right? When you're flipping through the channels and you're trying to say, okay, what are we talking about today? Oh, you know, President Donald Trump, the cheater, right? And so people are going to watch. They're like, oh, did he cheat to win the election? No, he cheated playing golf. And who cares, right? But it gets people to watch, right? And all the newspapers had it as a headline, right? And it got people to read the article, right? Because you're thinking they're talking about cheating in something else, and it's talking about golf tournaments that nobody really cares about. Now, he won some money, so there's some things in dispute there for winning some money from some of these things, but come on, you know, so yeah, I mean, definitely drama sells. If anything, you can listen to the local news and you can hear it. You can look at any news article, you can see it. And then, of course, if you do look at social media, anybody who creates content, they tend to do that. But if there's a way to do it in a way that spins it, that looks negative, but you're still having good content, because that's the thing that I think is important, is really still offering value to people and not just complaining. Because I know what could really do really well for me is if I talk poorly about Nigeria. I could do that on a daily basis. And if I did, I could do really well on Instagram. Like, I mean, on YouTube. I know for sure I'd be at like 20,000 subscribers by now. But I don't, because that's not who I am and that's not what I want to put out there in the world. So I choose not to. But it's hard for other people to decide not to do that. I started to see other people who I started in the content game around the same time that they did, and I've seen them fall victim to the algorithm, trying to beat the algorithm by doing salacious content. And it's unfortunate because then, you know, the value that they're offering is a little bit less, it's less value and really more just like entertainment. I'm really about offering value, right? Okay. So yeah, people are just surprised by the amount of video views. Yeah, and that's on Kels Acosta's channel, by the way, not my channel. My video has like 12,000 views. The 10 things I wish I knew His has 100,000 on his channel. Nee says some people would not watch based on the title. Some people would not watch based on the title, but more people will watch than wouldn't watch, as evidenced by the number of people on the live now versus other lives that I've done. And here's another example. There's a channel that I was following to kind of get an idea of content when I first moved here. And I remember looking at the disparity between they had 5 things I love about Ghana and 5 things I hate about Ghana. And the 5 things I love about Ghana had over 100,000 views. The 5 things I hate had 15,000 views. Sorry, other way around. 5 things I hate had over 100,000 views. 5 things I love had 15,000 views. It's just the way people are programmed and wired, you know? Okay. People talking. Liz says, no, Joe, not Nigeria. No, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it again. And by the way, I liked Nigeria. I had a really good experience. I just had one bad experience with the Airbnb. The first day was not good. Just put it that way. And by describing that, whew, the hate, that was wild. That was pretty crazy. But it was interesting experience overall anyway. Okay. Now we're at 2 hours and 11 minutes. It is past 11 p.m. I got work to do, phone calls to make. So I want to thank you all for joining. As always, watch the replay, hit the like button on the replay. If you know anybody that's planning to visit Ghana, planning to move to Ghana, share this with them. Send this video, send it to them on WhatsApp, send it to them on iMessage, send it to them in email, send it to them on Green Bubble Androids, whatever. Send it to them so that they know what it could potentially be like if they don't have contingency plans in place and they want to go for the cheaper, too good to be true option. And also, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell that says all, so you're notified every time a new video comes out. So thanks for joining, Lenora. Sharon, you have a wonderful evening as well. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and I will see you all on the next video.